Anyway, the brilliant Graham Linehan was summoned to said committee to talk about the fact that he was arrested, basically at gunpoint by armed officers, getting off a plane in London after flying back from America for a very casual throwaway joke of a comment that he'd put online that clearly was tongue-in-cheek. Let's have him on. Let's talk to the man in question. Graham, it is brilliant to have you on the programme. A real honour and a privilege. I'm a great fan of not just the work you do right now, defending free speech and women's safety, but also your brilliant written work, which kept me hugely entertained in my teenage years as well on television. Tell me about Testifying before US Congress. What are they doing? What did they ask you?
Well, they've been collecting examples from across Europe of people who've been mistreated by often liberal left governments for telling the truth, essentially. You know, like the British police have been harassing me for 10 years, or almost 10 years, since I started talking about this issue. They work as a kind of private security team for a very small group of coordinated activists. And it's things like this. The person who was with me was a Finnish politician who got into trouble for sharing a Bible verse, you know. So, like, I mean, it's gone from when we wrote Father Ted, we were poking fun at the sort of the version of religion that was sometimes exaggerated and sometimes not. But basically, we used all the cliches about religion to tell these stories, and now the left just seems to have become a religion of its own, and it's not just it's you know, Catholic priests would just complain and write a letter to the Irish Times, but these governments have the power to actually hurt people, you know. So I think what the US are very worried about at the moment is they're worried about Europe. I think in a recent national security document, they spoke about downgrading the whole of Europe into a troubled area, something like that, or a troubled zone.
Wow.
Yeah. yeah. And I think that one of the things that the Americans see is that the public are being kind of arrested, hounded. In my case, my reputation was destroyed for simply pointing out things that are true. And the more that I mean, I'll give you a very good example. Have I got news for you? How long has that been running? 20 years? Something like 25
ages.
years?
8, probably longer.
Yeah. For 10 years, they've ignored this issue because they're so frightened of touching it. So that's a satire show that cannot speak about an issue. And the thing about satire, what it's supposed to be for, it's a sort of escape valve. It's a release so that we can, you know, sit around and joke about our crazy situation. But Ian Hislop and Paul Merton are sort of betraying betraying satire in the sense that they've found an issue that they simply will not talk about. And the problem with that is that people get more and more frustrated when the version of life they see on television, on the news and on satire shows and all the rest of it does not match what they see on the streets, what they're experiencing every day. And you know, there were recently riots in Ireland. I've never seen a riot in Dublin in my life, you know, and it's simply because the immigration problem in Ireland has become so insane that, you know, it's leading to all these explosions of violence or upset. And if that continues on with the British government and press and the sort of what you might call the cultural elite pretending the world is different from it is behind their gated communities, then yeah, I mean, you might see Europe get into a very chaotic state.
Well, this is it. I mean, I think that America sees this coming. I think we see it coming. There's a brilliant professor of war studies called Professor David Betts, who's Canadian by birth, but lives over here. and has done various interviews talking about how he sees civil war approaching. And it's not a matter of when, it's more a matter of where. Which country is going to go up first? Where are the biggest riots going to take place? Because it will, I think, catch on like a fast metastasizing cancer. And what you're saying is, you know, for a long time, we've known since the ancient Greeks that catharsis is so important, to laugh together, to cry together, to poke fun, to commiserate together, to let that out, to let those emotions out, because you sort of pack them all in. If you oppress a people, you're going to send them mentally ill. And that is what's happening widely across the West. And America's watching. I want to know the sort of things that Americans were saying to you, because, you know, I've spoken about this quite a lot, and I don't think America's going to just sit back with folded hands, quietly and peaceably watching the unravelling of Europe. It's quite clear they're evidence gathering and that they are planning to act. And so, you know, having been in the belly of the beast, going over there and speaking to members of Congress, what sort of things were they saying to you?
Well, a lot of it was more, I got the overall impression of a great sadness, you know, because these people love Europe. You know, there's lots of Irish American congressmen, and they hate the idea of seeing Ireland go down this road. But I think they're quite, you know, because they're in power, because there's a lot of confidence, because yesterday what we were talking about, in my case, was an 80-20 issue. They feel very confident about pressing this. And I think they are now talking about arresting people who censor speech in Europe. I can't remember what they're doing, but I can't remember what the word is, but they're talking about fly bans or something like that, you know? So they're very serious about it. And they do like Europe. They're not doing it out of a hatred of Europe. They want they want the countries to flourish.
The concerns I have is, you're right, they've already made moves. They've already said, listen, if you try and shut down, because a lot of these European recommendations that come out of the Digital Services Act are applied to a platform globally. So it actually ends up censoring the Americans as well, or anyone using these platforms abroad. And they've already turned around and said, right, we're going to put flight bans against people like Thierry Breton, who was the EU Commission's information commissar. But the thing is, it seems to me that the left wing of Europe is retaliating, and in typical fashion, because I know that EU overly well. I know exactly what it's like. I know the application of things like the cordon sanitaire, the way they stitch things up, the smoke and mirrors of a fake news parliament that has no democratic legitimacy, no power, no voice, is just there to gaslight people into them thinking that they voted for something and have some sort of accountability. But I know how they operate, and what is alarming me is it seems that Europe are not just going to go, OK, America is going to potentially threaten us with tariffs or put these flight bans on. They're getting together and they're coming back with even more fire and fury. When I look at the sort of things Pedro Sanchez wants to recommend, and I know that this mad government, who went down the same route of, well, you know, people are putting like kids in bikinis on Grok, therefore we've got to ban X, which doesn't even make sense. I know that this government are waiting to do exactly the same, to imitate some of these radicals. And so I can't see this problem in any way being corrected or improved.
Yeah, I mean, you know, their best kind of attempt to keep us all under control was non-crime hate incidents, you know, and now that they are becoming a little bit too embarrassing to the government, they're being removed. But now, yeah, they will go straight to the source. I mean, all of this is just they're new they're kind of current governments, but they're in an old way of thinking. They do not understand that the internet provides us with opportunities to get together and talk to each other and come up with good solutions. You know, all they're worried about is you know, their politicians being able to lie to us, you know, and I think one of the reasons that Keir Starmer especially would hate X is because everything he says is followed by a community note. Yeah. Because politicians, they don't get to do what they used to be able to do, which is, you know, sort of tell half the story, you know. They don't get to be able to do that, and that's why they love censorship. Yesterday, the Democrats at Congress, they just tried to derail the meeting by talking about Minneapolis and ICE, and I've never seen anything so extraordinary. They basically spoke every time they spoke. They told exactly half the story. They told the story of these arrests, of people getting hurt, of the recent deaths of Rene Good and things like that. But they didn't tell the other side of the story, the fact that these cops are being deliberately antagonized by the kind of people who have been harassing women at their events for the last 10 years, you know? And so that's what social media gives us. It gives us the whole picture. So politicians, they have less and less wriggle room. They have to tell us the truth. And unfortunately, we have these governments that are stuck in the old ways of thinking. And we need someone to come along and just explode all that, you know? We've had too many years of weak governments, weak men.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. It's the problem is we have some fairly weak governments, but we've got a very strong, determined, quite sinister and cannily operating supranational entity over in Brussels, and some pretty scary people operating the political shadows here. When I was at university, I was so full of optimism. At the beginning of this millennia, I was so full of optimism about what was coming down the line, thinking that, you know, we really were living in brilliant, privileged times with the advancement of technology. Everything seemed so fun, so positive. I had no idea in 2025 I'd be sitting in a studio talking about the United Kingdom as if I am describing a foreign, oppressive, tyrannical regime. I did not see this coming. Did you?
No, I would have made better plans. I didn't see it coming at all. I didn't see my friends all kind of betraying me and not sticking up for me. I didn't see any of this. It's all come as a complete shock. And what what a lot of people don't realize is that they're being influenced by the internet. The people who say that trans women are women, or the people who swore blind that children weren't being operated on, these are just like memes that have been going around the internet, and everybody picked up on them, and they became part of government policy. I mean, can you think of anything more sadistic and barbaric than putting men in women's prisons? It is the most extraordinary situation that's happening. And again, it's very hard to speak about this because the government has been looking the other way while people have had their reputations destroyed for standing up to things like this. So the fact that the world has gone so mad and not realized it means we have to get people who understand the modern age into power. You know, and we have a few politicians around the world who do understand the modern age, and they're hated for it as well.
It's true. But that's it. When you see how people are brainwashed now into thinking that surgically operating on children, that you have convinced these poor wee things, you've convinced them that they're in the wrong body, which is evil itself, to do that to a child, to say to a child, oh, do you think you're actually a girl? Do you think you're actually a boy? That to me is abusive. But then to pursue a medical course of treatment, it's a bit like the blimmin' Victorians, giving people electric shock therapy and giving them lobotomies because they got PTSD. It is a wickedness. And hasn't now there been the first successful case in America of some young person who went through a mastectomy, turning around and suing the doctors and the government millions of dollars for what the courts have decided was abuse against her. And I just think this is going to happen here. In 10 years' time, it'll be like the infected blood scandal. There'll be case after case after case of people suing the government, because it won't be the individual medics, it won't be the teachers, it won't be the social workers, it won't be the charities like Mermaids, it'll be the government, which means we, the taxpayers, who never went along with it, will be the ones paying the bill.
Yeah, very, very good point. Very good point. And, I don't know. I don't have anything to add, really. I think that's it. We get punished for telling the truth, and then when the truth is, and then when we're exonerated, we get charged. I mean, it's just an extraordinary situation. The good thing though about that deal, or the woman suing for the 2 million, and in the next week, the Society of Plastic Surgeons said that we shouldn't be doing these operations on children. And also what's great about it is that this lie that trans activists just kept repeating, oh, this isn't happening to children. Well, this girl was 14. More stories are popping up all the time, and soon they're not going to be able to deny it. And I think that, I think one of the things you'll see now is a lot of people saying they didn't believe it. They were never.
Oh, exactly. All these people be, I never went along with that. I always knew this was a bad idea. Same people, the minute that the Nazi regime fall, you could never find a Nazi supporter in Germany anymore. Graham, could I just say, on behalf of all of us, thank you for all that you do. I mean, horrors were visited upon you. I don't think you had much choice but to fight back, but you continue to fight. And flying over America and testifying before the US Congress, you've done it on behalf of 500 million people in Europe. And that is, you should be so proud of yourself, because we are so grateful for you.
Thank you, Alex. That's really nice of you to say. I'm sorry, my thoughts are a bit scattered today because I just got off the plane. So let's do this again sometime, and you'll get me more compos mentis.
Oh no, you were brilliant as always. And you know what? When I get home tonight in the wee small hours, I might actually watch Father Ted, because it's honestly my favourite programme growing up, and I love it so much. Kicking Bishop Brennan up the. Yeah.
Please, if you like my stuff, and watch Count Arthur Strong. No one has seen it. It's like, it was my last show. There were 3 seasons.
Yeah.
No one watched it because the BBC didn't know how to promote it. And it's just as good as anything I did.
I love that. Fresh Linehan material. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. You might only be able to get it on DVD or something, but it's really, really good.
Oh, some dark corner of the interweb will have that. I'll find a way to dig it out. I'll get my people on it. Graham, thank you ever so much. You have given so much to this world. You've given your incredible humour, your wit, your wisdom, your kindness, and now your bravery. And we appreciate you so much. The fantastic Graham Linehan, ladies and gentlemen. It is a really important story. Of course, nobody else talking about it.